your mind will not stop. You have tried to stop it, told yourself to let it go, reasoned through the thing from every angle, reached temporary conclusions that don't hold past the next quiet moment, and the thought returns. Not because you are weak or undisciplined or suffering from some deficiency of mental control, because the thing your mind is circling is real, and real things require real processing. If you know exactly which thought just came to mind, hit like. This video was made for where you are. Here is what the overthinking actually is, beneath the label that has been applied to it, beneath the self-criticism that accompanies the experience of a mind that will not quiet down, and why every technique you have tried to stop it has only temporarily interrupted something that was going to continue anyway. When the body encounters something it cannot immediately neutralize, an infection, an antigen, a foreign element that its ordinary functions cannot resolve at standard operating temperature, it raises its temperature. The fever is not the illness. The fever is the processing. The elevated heat is the immune system working at an intensity that standard conditions do not produce. The discomfort is real. The interference with ordinary function is real. The inability to simply decide to feel better is real. None of these make the fever wrong. They make it necessary. The body is doing exactly what the encounter requires. The mind has its own fever response. When something enters it that cannot be resolved through standard processing, a decision without sufficient information, a loss that has not been grieved, a truth that the conscious mind is not yet ready to accept, a conflict between what you know and what you feel. The mind raises its processing temperature. The thoughts circle, the same questions return. The resolution that seemed to arrive in the afternoon is gone by the morning. Not because the mind is malfunctioning, because the thing being processed requires higher temperature than standard thinking provides. The label overthinking applies the wrong framework to what is happening. Overthinking implies that the correct amount of thinking has been exceeded, that the mind is doing more than the situation warrants. But this assumes the situation is simpler than the mind is treating it. And in most cases where the genuine circling occurs, the situation is exactly as complex as the mind is treating it. The mind is not being excessive. It is being proportional to something that the surface level of the situation does not reveal. Seneca wrote, "Recede in te ipse quantum potes." Withdraw into yourself as much as you can. Not as suppression of the processing, as the creation of the conditions the processing requires. The fever does not resolve through action or distraction or the forcible redirection of attention. It resolves through the interior space in which the processing can run at full temperature without interference. The mind that cannot stop thinking is not trying to make you miserable. It is trying to process something that requires its full attention, and the processing will complete when the thing has been genuinely metabolized, not before. You are not overthinking, you are running a fever, and fevers break when the processing is complete. And the fever is the work. There are specific ways the processing fever shows up, the precise daily experiences that tell you the mind is running at elevated temperature for a reason. If any of these are familiar, they are not signs of a broken mind. They are the fever doing what fevers do. The first is the same thought or question returning, regardless of how many times you have already resolved it. You work through the thing. You arrive at a conclusion. The conclusion feels stable for a few hours, perhaps for a day, and then the thought returns in approximately its original form, as if the resolution never happened. The previous thinking has left no permanent trace. The mind begins again from near the start. This is not memory failure, and it is not compulsion. It is the fever's persistence, the processing running the same circuit because the circuit has not yet completed. Each return to the thought is not redundant. Each past process is something the previous passes could not reach. The resolution that sticks will not be the 1000th repetition of the loop. It will be the pass that finally touches the thing the loop has been circling. The second is being unable to be fully present in conversations because a portion of your attention is always occupied elsewhere. You are with the person, you are responding, engaging, performing the social functions of presence, but something in your background is running continuously, the same process, the same unresolved element, occupying the bandwidth that full presence requires. The other person may not notice, but you notice the tax, the specific quality of attending to things simultaneously and being fully in neither. This is not rudeness or disinterest. It is the fever consuming a portion of the cognitive resource that would otherwise be available for full engagement. The third is physical symptoms that appear specifically during or after the circling thoughts. Tension in the jaw that arrives when a particular thought returns. A tightening across the shoulders during a specific category of mental loop. A pressure in the chest that corresponds precisely to the moments of highest processing intensity. The body is not separable from the fever. When the mind raises its processing temperature, the body registers the heat. The physical symptoms are not psychosomatic in the dismissive sense. They are accurate somatic reporting of genuine cognitive and emotional effort. The tension is real because the processing is real. The fourth is a specific relief when distraction works, and a specific guilt that follows the relief. The film, the conversation, the physical activity that successfully interrupts the loop produces a genuine exhale. The fever drops temporarily. The temperature-elated discomfort lifts, and then, often quickly, the guilt arrives. You are avoiding the thing that needs to be faced. You are using distraction to escape processing that is necessary. The guilt is partially right and partially wrong. The distraction is a rest from the fever, not a resolution, but a genuine and legitimate interval. The fever will resume when the rest is over. The rest did not harm the processing. It sustained the system through it. But here is what no one tells you about what comes next. Here is what the loop is circling that it cannot yet directly approach, not the question it appears to be asking. The loop presents itself as a problem to be solved, as a decision to be made, an outcome to be predicted, a scenario to be prepared for. And the mind runs a scenario in good faith, arrives at a tentative resolution, and returns because the scenario was not the actual object of the processing. It was the surface content through which the mind was approaching something it is not yet ready to encounter directly. Beneath the question that the loop keeps asking is something that cannot be resolved through thinking, an emotion that has not been felt, a grief that is present but has not been given its full weight, a truth about something that the acceptance of it would require a change the system is not yet prepared to make, a fear that, if felt directly rather than thought around, would be larger than the mind is currently willing to hold. The thinking is not avoiding the resolution. The thinking is protecting the system from encountering the feeling before the system has developed sufficient tolerance to hold it. The fever is running because the processing is genuine. But the processing is circling rather than completing because the core of what needs to be processed requires something beyond thinking to resolve it. Seneca wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The mind that is running the loop everywhere, in conversations, in the shower, in the space between sleeping and waking, is avoiding being fully anywhere, including fully in the feeling that the loop is protecting. The loop provides a specific comfort of being adjacent to the feeling without being inside it, near enough to process, but not so near that the full weight arrives. Here is something to do right now. Set aside the question the loop keeps asking. For 60 seconds, ask a different question. What is the feeling underneath this? Not the analysis of the feeling itself. Where is it in the body? What is its weight? You do not have to resolve it. You do not have to stay with it longer than 60 seconds. Simply acknowledge that it is there and that the loop has been its guardian. That acknowledgement is the first time the fever has been given permission to break. This is when everything begins to shift. You came into this video loop. The thought was already running when you arrived here. It will probably still be running when this video ends. Fevers do not break on command. But something may have shifted in how you are carrying it, not the content of the loop, the relationship to it. Because the loop that you are willing to be patient with, that you recognize as processing rather than malfunction, as fever rather than failure, that loop has a different quality than the one you are fighting against or trying to suppress. The fighting against it consumes a portion of the resource that the processing requires. Every effort to stop the thinking adds a layer of resistance that the system then also has to process. The loop that is allowed to run, that is given the interior space Seneca describes, the withdrawal that creates the conditions for the processing to complete, runs more efficiently. It reaches the feeling it has been circling sooner. It resolves more quickly. Not because the question was simpler, but because the resistance has been removed. The fever breaks when the processing completes, not when you decide it should, not when you have had enough of the discomfort, not when you have employed the right technique or spent enough time on the question. When the thing that required the processing has been genuinely metabolized, when the decision has been faced with full information, or the emotion has been felt at its actual weight, or the truth has been accepted at the level of the body and not just the intellect, the temperature drops, the loop completes. The thought returns and the return produces nothing new, and gradually the urgency that drove the returning subsides. You are not broken for having a mind that will not quiet down. You are processing something real at the intensity that real things require. And the processing is doing exactly what it needs to do. Circling the thing, approaching from different angles, maintaining the elevated temperature that genuine metabolization requires until the moment it completes. That moment will come. It always comes when the processing is allowed to continue rather than interrupted. Let the fever run. Stay with it as much as you can. The heat is the work, and the work is almost done. If this video found you mid-loop and gave the loop a different name, write in the comments. I'm running the fever. Let's see how many of us are processing something real right now. If Noctivus is new to you, subscribe. Every video here is for the mind that won't stop because it's working on something important. The next one goes deeper into what the processing produces when it completes. Don't interrupt the fever before it breaks.